So because there's no employers or employees, when you launch the initial screen, you've got to enter the default password and the default administrator. So it's admin for user and password for password. And there we are in. So now the first thing we need to do is to set up an employer. That button there is for the new employer, so I'm going to click on that and we get a screen where we enter all the details for our test company. So I'm going to call it Testco. Give it an address. And postcode the PIM11. The employer's tax reference will be something like C123456D3. So the next bit is we decide here, or we enter here, the defaults for how the payroll is being run. Weekly paid employees, we can select which day of the week. Friday is the usual day, so we'll leave it at Friday. For monthly paid employees, again, we select which day of the month they're paid as standard. 25th is the usual, that's what the Manx government use and most employers. But some use, for instance, the last day of the month, and there is an option for that, you can see on the drop-down list. Number of pay slips per page is by default set to 1. It used when I first wrote this program, I had 3 pay slips on a standard A4 sheet of paper. You can still go for that option if you choose to, but these days, because most people don't even print these things in paper anymore, and they're emailed or whatever, sent by PDF, and 1 is the norm now. I'm not going to change any of these, but you will see at a later stage where these come in. The pay slips can be adapted quite extensively, and again, I'm going to leave these options as default. Now I'm going to set up an the SMTP server, so that once that's been done, then the option to email payslips to your employees will be operational. So I'm going to enter my own personal address here for this. richard@browniom.com. My SMTP server, I use Gmail, so the Gmail SMTP server details are smtp.gmail.com, and the port is 587. That's a very commonly used port, but it's not necessarily going to be the one your provider uses. My password is that, and I'm going to leave the text. So I'm going to send myself a test email, and that shows me that is properly set up and works. I would have got an error message and you can see it coming in from my client. So post that, and my new employer has been set up. So I can open, and there we have our employer at the top of the list, ready to go. So we are going to go into that employer, and now we need to enter some employees. You can see that all these buttons are active now, so that as I move my mouse across, we can explore the rest of the system. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a couple of employees. Click on the employee module, which is there, and we're going to have a first employee. So we're going to have a Mr. or James Blogs. Payslip name, this is the actual name that would appear on the payslip. Different employers obviously have different views on how the employees should see their names presented. Some might be very formal and say Mr. James Blogs. Some might want to just say Jimmy Blogs or something like that. So we'll actually put Jimmy Blogs. That's what everybody knows him as, onto the payslip. And if we set up his email, then you'll be able to send a payslip to him via email. His address, well, he lives in Douglas. So I'm going to give him a Douglas address of 2 Dukes Road, Douglas. I am, I don't know, 36HJ. And payroll information, this is where we enter the details of that employee with regard to his essential information for the tax office. So his ITIP reference is going to be something like H9999999, and his tax code will be MA1234567D. So Jimmy is table A. Nearly all employees are on table A for the national insurance. He's a weekly paid employee. His date of birth was the 3 of January 1967, and his tax code is 650J. This information, of course, will be all provided to you from the government. And then his wage details. As we know, he's weekly paid. He could have a standard weekly wage, maybe, £250 a week or something like that. But in our case, Jimmy's being paid an hourly rate. So we'll give him an hourly rate of £8.74, 75 even. That makes more sense. We might have an overtime rate, let's say, of £10, and a special bank holiday if you worked on a Christmas or something like that of £15. So there we are. That sets up his essential hourly rates and post here, and that will get that employee. I'm going to add another employee, so click on the new employee button, and this employee is going to be a lady. We'll call her Miss Susan Brown, and her payslip name is just going to be Susan Brown, and her email address for payslips, richard@brown.com. She lives in Ramsey Parliament Street, Ramsey. Man, I am 95FG. Miss Brown need to enter this information, H1234532, and then MA. She's going to be paid monthly. She's a salaried lady, maybe the owner of the business. Date of birth, 1 of June 1973. As I tab out, you'll see that the date converts to a long date format, just so that you can be sure that it's not gone American or something similar. Her tax code is 870G, and we'll say that she started work at the business on the 1st of July, and in the wage details, she's going to get a standard wage, a monthly salary, £2,567. So that's sorted her out, and I'm now going to post. So we now have a company, and we have 2 employees. Press the escape key, and we're back to our main screen with a blank area in front of us. So the next thing I want to do is let's give these people some money. So I'm going to press the enter wages option here, and there are our 2 employees. Jimmy Blogs, his next pay date automatically works it out the 7th of January, which will be the next Friday. And as you can see, it knows that he's been paid £8.75 on his basic rate, and he's worked a grand total of 37 hours this week. So that's £323.75. You can see it all greyed out here because it's all worked out automatically, and the ITIP and the national insurance are also automatically worked out. It is possible to override all of this by clicking on manual entry, and then you could override all the default calculations. That would be very rarely used. There can be circumstances. So let's say that because this is the new year, so we're going to give them a Christmas bonus. So we can type that in there, and we'll give them a present of £100. So that reworks everything and readjusts all his tails. So I'm going to type in a message in this memo box here. Happy Christmas. Jimmy, you have worked hard. So I'll put a little message there, and that'll appear on the pay slip. So I'm going to post that. Susan Brown, well, she's going to be paid. So that's date there should be in fact 30th of January 2567, and we'll take that message out from there, and we'll just post her as is. And there we have it. We've now entered our first two payments. I now press the escape key, or I can click on the close button there. I can now see those payslips by clicking on the payslip selection module, and here we are. So this box here is to indicate whether we're going to send them by email as well as print out the actual payslips. So I'm going to do I'm just going to send an email, say, for Jimmy Blogs, but not for Susan Brown. And I'm going to print both those payslips out. Click on Go. So you can see you get a message that an email has been sent to me, and there it comes in. And I'm going to say, so okay, so that. And there we are. We can print that out onto the printer. And there's the little message we put in for Jimmy Blogs. You've worked hard. And there's Susan Brown's payslip there. Okay, so close that. Let's now close that. And for the purposes of this demonstration, because I don't want the video to go on for too long, I will not dwell too much on all the other features. There's a report button here where you can produce all sorts of reports which make much more sense once you've got a lot of payments going in. You can see what the national insurance and ITIP parameters are by clicking on either of those two. You can print the T35 form, which will be looking a bit strange in this case, but there we are. Our first two entries show up, and that's how that T35, the month-end report, will come through. And you can also produce the T14 report, which is the end of the year T14. When you print that out, that does all the year-end essential work for you, and a file is produced to upload to the government. One final thing which occurs to me, a thing which I often get initial calls for, is, I've made a mistake, Richard, how can I delete a mistaken entry? Well, it's easy to do. Click on the employee button. Let's say that we made a mistake on Jimmy's pay slip. We shouldn't have given him a £100 bonus because that was a mistake. We need to enter it again. We can just click on the transactions and all his entries will be shown up here. Click on the one you want to delete and that's it, as simple as that. He's gone now, and all the other information will feed through accordingly. So thank you for watching this.